Are you trying to navigate this crazy thing called life? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Unraveling with Rayne. Hey guys, we are here today with Jen Jackson. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am almost 40, which is something that my daughter teases me about.
Oh, really?
Because she says, Mom, you're not almost 40. You're 38. And I'm like, actually, I'm 37. But I'm almost 38. I have a 13-year-old, and I've been married for 20 years now. I test drove my marriage for 5 years before putting a kid into the mix, just so
that's a good idea.
Made sure we made it. And we seem to be doing great, so you know how that goes. And so I have, I guess, done a lot of different avenues in my life, and so right now this is where I am.
It's a good place to be, right?
Yeah.
Right here in the present. That's what I'm working on anyway.
Yeah.
Living in the present moment. It's been going all right so far.
Mine's on balance.
Yeah?
Finding balance.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
How are you doing with that?
Well, it's going with, that's my life. I think I talk about different, I guess, steps that people take in life. So you reach your next step. And my next step is that I can be okay with boundaries and with relying on myself to be okay if somebody doesn't really like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately I was a people pleaser. And so kind of living in this genre, it's not so much people look at you mean, but sometimes they look at you a little bit different. You know, I'm a mom and I walk around with tattoos and stuff like that. And I try my best to make sure that I'm very respectful, very appropriate.
Sure. But
you walk into different scenarios, people are like, do you do this? Do you go to here? Do you, and
who do you associate with?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so guided meditation is what I do now.
Right.
And I feel like that isn't so much like a leap away from things, but people still have a stigma tied to something like that. And I think that my platform right now is just trying to say that I try to welcome everybody and I try to show everybody love and respect.
Yeah.
So just because I do something maybe just a little bit different, that is going to be okay, and then I'm going to be okay for it.
Yeah.
So.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because I actually just wrote a blog about, you know, like, if people may look at you differently if when you start to live as your true self and you just kind of let that be what it is. And there's this huge, like, I don't know what the right word is, but I know for me it was really terrifying to, like, step into that space and explore who I was and let other people watch me explore and see me while I'm exploring, you know? Like, I don't know if you struggled with that at all, but I did for sure. Like, it was really hard.
I grew up raised Catholic, so coming from that Catholic background, it was kind of weird to see that these people would kind of fall asleep, and I would be there sitting as a kid. You know, I did like my CCDs, and I did my, you know, took communion, and I did all these things, and they're teaching you to embrace and love each other. And so these people were falling asleep, and I never could figure out, you know, why are they even here?
Right.
But it was until the lesson was done, the priest was done, and he had walked away, that we went to the meeting room. And in that meeting room, there was cookies, there was hot chocolate, there was coffee for the adults. But the love and the light and the happiness, like, just rose, and I could see the different colors and the different feeling.
Yeah.
Not to say that being inside the church setting wasn't something magical too, but it was just this raise of vibration. And it was, I felt, looking at it now as an adult, what I was seeing was just this community and this camaraderie that people felt to say, hey, I have something really super heavy. Would one of you guys help me out? And then, oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah. And it was just that bonding experience afterwards, that 30 minutes afterwards, that everyone, it seemed to look forward to. And so I try to take the positive out of every circumstance that I have. And from that, I learned that they teach you not to turn your back on somebody and to welcome them and to embrace them. And so I want to do that. That didn't happen for me when I tried to go get married with my husband, unfortunately. Yeah. We were young. And they said that we did all the lessons that they taught you, and they did all that stuff. And then they told us basically, no, we're not going to marry you. You're too much of a risk. Oh. So we were kind of left, well, we want to get married. Yeah. So this awesome reverend, just by chance, because everything happens for a reason, this awesome Reverend Tom, he had us come over to his house. He had us play with his kids and kind of introduce his family. He, talked to us. He talked about the Bible, and he says, you don't have to go into the structure to feel that place with a higher power. Sometimes you can do that by yourself. And sometimes you can, me and my husband and my daughter now, currently, we do what is called church on Sundays when it's nice, and we go and we walk out in nature, and we try to rejoice in each other without cell phones. There's, of course, candid pictures that we take from here to there. Yeah. Because we have a really goofy golden doodle, and he does some pretty funny things. Yeah. But we take him and we just walk and we just talk, and we talk philosophy and ideas and things that have happened that maybe weren't so great. Because I feel that sometimes the ugliest things that we go through can give us our greatest life lessons.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
So
yeah. And I think that you're so right. People get caught up in the building itself. Like, we have to be here to build this community and to be in fellowship with each other. But there's so many different ways that we can stay connected and just embrace each other and build that community. So it's really cool. And
I'm not saying that church isn't a great thing. No, yeah. Because it's a building that, like I was saying, that's a building where people with a commonality, a common thread, they can find each other and they can form those bonds and those friendships, and that's how we learn. I mean, I have friends from every single pattern of where you go in life. Yeah. And so there's those true blue ones that come through. Yeah. And so I just found that walking in nature with my family just felt, I guess now, more relaxed and more natural. Than sitting there in a hard bench and falling asleep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So take us through the process of kind of coming to where you are. I know that's kind of a big question. I'm sure there's a lot of steps, but give me like the biggest moments that stood out to you that kind of led you in this direction.
So when I was younger, my brother actually teased me a lot because he would find me sleeping outside of my room. And he goes, that you can like hear things, right? And I'm like, yeah. And I was little. And so he goes, why are you sleeping out here? And I said, it's just too loud in my room. And at the time, I didn't really understand what that meant. But then later on in life, you learn different things and you acquire different knowledge. And so I figured out that I might just be a little bit different. And so I might have some gifts that maybe others either share or that others don't really necessarily have. And so I guess it's even bigger being a mom. It's that kind of, I guess if I were to put it into a word that everyone might understand.
Sure.
The mother's intuition.
Uh-huh.
It's just this sense. It's this all-knowing, I can see colors, I can see, I can kind of feel where things go. I can kind of let my intuition guide me. Mm-hmm. And then there's a few other cool things that
yeah.
So
when you, like, going back to that, like, with your brother and sleeping outside of your room, so when you say, like, it's too loud in there, what does that mean, really?
So I go back to when I talk about kids. Sometimes kids' imaginary friends aren't so imaginary.
Okay.
Is what I'm kind of trying to get at. I believe that there's a higher being, of course.
Yeah.
But I also believe in, like, angels. Mm-hmm. I believe in guides. Mm-hmm. I believe in, why limit the box? Right. Just because we can't touch, feel, see doesn't mean that they aren't there. Mm-hmm. And so it was very loud in my room because I feel like there was a lot of energy growing up. And I feel like I had a lot of guides and a lot of angels and a lot of stuff that kind of watched over me. Okay. I'm a very accident-prone type of a person, but somehow you survive as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I feel like those miracles sometimes are an act of a higher power. Yeah.
What's interesting about that is I think that my oldest daughter is actually what made me question a lot of things as far as, well, what are the possibilities with what, like, these gifts that people have.
Right.
For the longest time, right when she first started to talk, she used to say, "Mommy, I found you in a box. When I was born, I found you in a box." And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what the heck she was talking about. And then one day we were going through this photo album of when she was born. Mm-hmm. And when she was born early, so she was in the NICU. Right. And they put her on the heating pad there, and it was like a little box, Right. And so she's like, "See, I looked up at you, and I found you in a box." And what she meant was she was in the box. Right. And I was like, how do you even know that? Like, how can you even remember that? Right. Right? And then so, like, later she had several imaginary friends, and she would sit and she would, like, have full conversations with them, and I'm thinking, like, maybe we should, explore this a little bit and do a little bit of research and, talk with her more and, like, figure out what her little brain is doing. So, yeah, like, that sounds very much in alignment with what she was doing or still does.
Right. Well, and I feel like as kids, they're not really necessarily told yet that maybe this isn't the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. And they're not given those, I guess, the rules yet of this is how it's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. And so kids, I think, are just a wonderful thing to look at because it's just that awe moment with them. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of sharing with you a little bit earlier about how when I feel I pulled my greatest experience coming from working at a preschool. I was a substitute teacher there while my daughter was in school, and then after she went to elementary school. And seeing these kids, like, pick up a crayon for the first time, these 3, 4, and 5-year-olds pick up crayons or scissors. Yeah. I mean,
they love scissors.
Just the joy, like, they're shaking little hands, to pick up these things. Right. And they just sit there, and one day we were doing, they were doing a painting project. Mm-hmm. And these kids, we look at it as if we see a stain or something that we need to pick it up. But these kids, they were just there with that paintbrush and that paint and that canvas, making the biggest mess, getting it all over their clothes. Yeah. And they couldn't care less. They didn't care about time. Mm-mm. They didn't care about, the mess or anything. They just were there in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then another time, we were making gingerbread cookies. A lot of preschools do this around the holiday times. And so they all got their kids love fairness. Okay. and they
I do.
and they love their turn. There's got to be the sharing
Yeah.
of their turn. So every kid needed to put in a little bit of ingredient, and then they got to mash it all and mix it all together, and then they each got their individual little dough ball. These kids would jump up and down, clapping their hands because they're so excited. Most of them had never baked before.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I pull in to everything that I try to do now, is that, you know, we're living moment to moment, minute by minute.
Yes.
And when we have those anxiety issues or we have those stress issues, if we can just look at this exact moment and just say to yourself, I'm okay. Right now, I'm just sitting here. You know, I'm drinking my water, you know, but I'm okay in this very moment, because I was one of the type of kids that had a lot of anxiety. I'm empathic. I carry a lot of other people's, well, I'm working on that much more now, but I carry around a lot of things, and I can feel a lot of what other people are feeling. And at the time, it's like a kid, you know how to turn on the light switch. You're like, oh, I know how to do that, and you turn it on. It's a lot harder to turn that off. And so when you turn that on, you can feel everything around. So when you're at school and, you know, you pick up other things and you pick up other people's feelings, it's going back to that intuition. And so I just felt like that anxiety base, if I could just find something that could calm that down. And so when I started working with kids, I saw that same type of like energy that I was like, yes, let's bottle this, you know, let's bottle the clapping of the hands and the jumping up and down just for a dough ball.
Sure, it's amazing that it's like so, like you said, you just want to take it all in. You're like, let's just stay right there for sure. And like kids really, they just bring you back. They bring you back to that place of like pure like joy and not, I don't want to say naive, but kind of, you know?
No, it's more, I think it's more kind of an innocence too. And also going along with it, I tell people when they're doing any type of work with me, past life, or if they're working on guided meditation, or
I want to dive into the past life stuff a little bit. We'll hit on guided.
Oh and then the Reiki and the chakra work and stuff like that. People always tell me, well, most of the time tell me, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm sorry, I'm crying. And I'm like, why? Why are you sad? Why are you saying you're sorry to me for crying? Just like a kid throwing himself on the ground and throwing a tantrum. We get mad too, and that's so acceptable for us to get really, really mad. Like, oh. But if I were to start crying right now, it's almost like we need to push him back in and kind of make it all pretty. And it's just another emotion. And so kids are so wonderful. When they're sad, they will just cry. When they are mad, they will throw themselves on the ground and tell you they are mad. And they will throw the tantrum. And I'm not saying that all of us adults need to do that.
What?
But
you can't throw tantrums?
But I'm saying that...
I thought I got permission there for a second.
I'm just saying that if we could allow ourselves to feel those feelings when we have them, I think our bodies and our spirit would feel so much better. If we could just allow ourselves the moment that we are sad to just cry, that we are mad to just be mad. Because bottling that up and to stuffing it inside there causes our stomach aches, causes our throat to hurt because we're not speaking our words, causes our back to hurt, headaches and stuff like that. And so if we can just allow ourselves to feel emotion like a kid, then I think we would all feel a little bit better. So that's kind of the reason why I went into my work too. Just to kind of work those kinks out.
So I guess going back to like you're talking about that manifestation in the body when we're just like, when we bottle everything up and we just hold so tight to it. Like, did you experience I guess it's more like the chakras and thinking about what we're holding on to and how it affects our body and all of that. Like, did you experience these manifestations and then look into them, or like did you just run across something about, alignment and energy, or like how did that even come about?
A lot of my things kind of happen by circumstance and by chance. I'm in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I was in this women's group. We all were just kind of sitting around doing coffee, just kind of talking, and we said, hey, we have this idea. Let's all come together with our gifts and let's kind of talk about them. And it was really cool because we met and we would talk about them and we would help each other out with the circumstances that we were having. And so that kind of opened that door just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then my best friend, who helped me through my biggest pitfall that I ever had, and that's what's going into that. We talk about this, is that when somebody's really down low, instead of jumping in that hole with them, hand in the ladder, and then stand there and say, okay, take your first step.
Yeah.
And be their cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so my best friend is, of course, I love my parents dearly.
Yeah.
Great support. My husband and my daughter. I have my brother, my sister-in-law, and my new baby nephew who just turned 3.
Yeah.
But my best friend is the person, the family that I would call my sister.
I've got one of those.
And I have learned so much from her, more than I think that I have ever learned from a lot of people. She just has this kind, loving spirit. And it was a funny story. I met her and I completely made a fool of myself. It was like the first day of kindergarten.
Aww.
Just ran up to her, because nerves, your kids go to preschool, but I was basically with my daughter almost every day at preschool because I was working.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the issue, but I'm there and I see her and it was just like a click. But I completely made a fool of myself, and I don't even want to tell the story.
Just leave it at that.
But she knows what it is, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah.
But it just, in that moment, we just clicked together. And she and I feel like she's a couple steps ahead of me. But she helped me kind of get up there, and then I just kind of took off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way.
Why do you say that?
Because when you're really good at something, like if you were a professional painter, and then somebody walks in, some kid off the street, and he's like, oh, well, here, let me do this. I don't need to tape up there. And he does it perfect with the fine lines.
Yeah.
That kind of tick you off a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I could see it from that perspective.
So I wasn't trying to rub people the wrong way, but I call it kind of the Keanu Reeves effect in The Matrix, where he gets hooked up and he learns, I think it was jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But he gets that hooked up to the back of his neck, and I kind of feel like that sometimes. My eyes are fluttering, and I'm like, hey, okay, I got it. Yeah. And it's that flipping on that light switch that I talk about. And so that kind of, I feel, sometimes is, I guess, kind of rubs people the wrong way. And it's not an intention on my part.
Yeah.
It just I feel like I've done it before in a past life. And it's just kind of like, okay, yeah. And I don't try to do it in a cocky way at all. I'm just like, yes. I get very excited about it and passionate about it.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
That's awesome. So you meet with this group of people, and you guys are exploring your gifts and talking about it and getting it out in the open, and then you're kind of coming to this point of, oh, this is the direction that I'm going in, and then what happens? What do you jump into first? Because there's so many things. There's so many things. So, I've been really striving to just strip things away and just take away things that I feel like I should be doing, or behaviors that I should have, or all those things, you know, and just get back to the basics. Who is Rayne?
Right.
Who is this person?
Right.
First let's kind of get her back into her body, and then we'll figure her all out, you know? And so, and as soon as I started doing that, I felt like there was so much. It was like a flood of information. Like, I seriously made one decision, and then 50 million doors opened. And I was just like, oh, like, it was like shell shock almost. And so, like, I slowly kind of decided, well, I think I'm going to look at this first. And then it kind of just led into the other things automatically without really, like, planning it, you know?
Right.
And so, like, I don't know if there was, like, one particular thing that you looked at first, or did you just dive in?
Well, yeah, I kind of just don't. I'm the type of person that has no concept of time other than I'm super early for everything. I don't understand that. But my husband has to rein me in a lot on time frame. And so I went into this group, and it seemed like each week, I think we did it every other week. It's been a while. Each week we would go through, like, let's say stones, and we would learn that. And then we would do, like, runes, and we would learn that. And then we would go into cards, and we would do that. And each thing, I would kind of rate it. You know, does this thing bring me joy? That's what I ask everybody. You know, if they have something passed down to them, and they are like, oh, I don't really want to hold on to it anymore. And I said, then maybe it's time just to get rid of it. Yeah. So if it brought me joy and I was excited about it, and I felt that kid, you know, jumping up and down, then I kept it. I put it inside my toolbox, and I kept it. Okay. And if it was something that it didn't really flow with me, it wasn't necessarily something bad. Sure. If it just didn't really ring true with inside myself, then I would just kind of be like, okay, I'll put that over there, and maybe that's something else that I can think of. But I did a lot of research on a lot of different things, and I bought a lot of books, a lot of tools. For the most part, it's been almost like platforms. So I kind of got a good handle on this one, and then I would just go to the next one. So it kind of like, I want to say it kind of flowed very naturally for me. It was a natural progression. But I'm talking, you know, I've had gifts now since I think I was a child, of course. And then I had my religion, and I did all that, and then it's just different progressions, different steps that led me to different places and different feelings. And if it felt good, and it felt good in my heart, then I felt like maybe this is something that I should do. Yeah. And so did you feel like these tools just kind of like naturally would manifest themselves in your life, or would you have to like be mindful of them in the beginning? For the most part, I feel like a lot of them really flowed naturally. Yeah. And if it felt like it was forced, I kind of in the back of my mind told myself and gave myself permission that even though it was something I really, really wanted to do, maybe it wasn't the right time. Yes. And maybe there was one other tool or one other person that I needed to meet, and then I would be okay. And that goes back to giving yourself permission to be like, this is okay for me to not have all the answers right now, and kind of come back to it. Yeah. I feel like life is ever growing, ever changing, so there's a lot of different things. And then once I master it, or what I think is like acceptable to give to others, then I try it out first on friends and family, and make sure that everything goes okay. Yeah. And then on myself, and then make sure everything goes okay. Sure. And then I release it to other people. Yeah. The worst feeling to be was to give somebody maybe information, or to give them something that turns negative, and I never want to work in the negative. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting that you talk about this concept of, it just wasn't the right time. Right. It just wasn't the right time. And I feel like that is such a new concept that I'm trying to grasp so desperately. And I'm doing better at it more recently. But my whole life I've had this idea that
okay, this is something that I'm going to do, and this is the timeline that I'm going to do it, and these are the steps that I need to take to do it and to accomplish it, and I'm just going to, like, go full steam, like, just plow through until I get to where that I want to go. This is where I want to be. And so, like you're talking about with that permission, giving yourself permission that it's just not the right time.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel like the right time to be pursuing this or to do this. And so I think that is so, it's so overlooked. Like, I don't know why we have this drive to just be like, we're on this path and we need to force it, you know? Like, I really don't know what feeds that. Like,
I think it's a lot of probably maybe self-doubt in ourselves, and it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
It's hard, and just doing a lot of research on that too. It's hard when you're in that rut. I mean, it's when it's dug in deep, it's kind of hard to move it the opposite direction. And so it takes practice. It takes practice to stop yourself, to say, okay, and then maybe I'm going to go this way today. I mean, the funniest thing that I think I can say is people drive the way that they drive every single day. When you drive to a certain place, you go the certain way.
Yeah.
So when I started this, I guess, journey of trying to break my anxiety, and because I used to suffer from panic attacks. And so that was just an overwhelming feeling for myself. And that was a time that I felt that I was taking in too many people's things. I was letting them, what I call, hook up and just drain me out. I didn't have that balance. I didn't have the balance in myself. I didn't have the balance with other people. And I feel like it was a great life lesson to know that even the happiest, joyful people can break. You know, we too need our cheerleaders. We too need that balance. But what I finally started doing, I guess, as a tool for myself was, instead of driving the exact same way, to do the exact same thing, to go on that autopilot mode, I would take a different route to see something new.
Yeah.
So then I noticed, like, oh, going down this street, I see these cool trees. Or going down this way, I see this guy always walking his dog.
Yeah.
And we call it Boy with Dog. And every single time we see Boy with Dog, we get, like, super happy in the car.
Yeah.
And so it's just those little tiny things that people take for granted, I believe. Just like the geese in the grass, just like the birds chirping up ahead.
Yeah.
And I feel like taking those little tiny moments just to kind of step back and just take in the smallest details sometimes are the greatest thing.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I wrote a piece about this day that we had. It was a little bit before Christmas. And, you know, Christmas time is always so, like, Christmas, family, baking, you know, presents, wrapping, you know, it's such a high anxiety. And I struggle with anxiety. And so the holidays are just, you know, just peachy.
Most empaths struggle with anxiety. Just to let you know.
Okay. There's a whole community of them. Okay. So I wrote this piece about, you know, the perfect not Christmas, and I talk about all of these things that just really brought me into the moment, and like all of these little things that lined up, like the day before, my daughter wishing so much that it would snow, and then like the next day we're in the kitchen baking and it starts snowing.
Right.
Like all of these little things that happened during this day that just were like it kept you in that moment, and like you said, you could take in all of those details and just really enjoy them for what they were. And like I'm so glad that I wrote it all down, because it has been such a reminder to me. Like, that's where you need to be living. You need to be living in those moments instead of like thinking about what you're going to do in the next hour, or the next 2 hours, or tomorrow, or next month. So often, like, obviously we have to check in, you know,
No,
because
of course,
we have commitments with other people and, you know, life. And there's people with other schedules out there, but just trying to be in those moments as much as you can, and it's crazy the things that you'll experience, like, and the people you'll, like you're talking about, boy with dog, like, the people, like, they might not even know that you're connected to them, but you are, and it brings you joy, you know, so that's really, I think that's such a strong tool for people to acquire and to really be more mindful of. I know that I've definitely gained so much from just that small little piece. I feel like it's just like a giant puzzle, and that's just one little piece that just brings it all together, you know?
I think too, and I'm not saying this for everybody, but I think too, having children kind of strips you down bare sometimes. I almost died giving birth to my daughter, and we were only able to have one. But she's the greatest gift that I could have ever had. And I don't want to say that I was materialistic, and I don't want to say that I was vain, but this is like the first time I've worn makeup for almost a year.
I only wear makeup when I come here.
And so it's just, it goes back to those simple things.
Yeah.
I would rather, for myself, I love to watch other people and look at other people with their beautiful makeup, and I have probably buckets upon buckets, but I never wear it, and I never touch it.
I only when the mood hits me, or if I'm here, I'm just like, I'll do that, but otherwise,
like a Christmas party or something fancy that I have to do, and then I'm like, oh, my eyes itch.
And then you forget. You're like, if you never wear it, you're like, oh, I gotta go wash my hands now.
But it's just those little tiny moments. And also what I wanted to, you pointed out that was so great, was one of the lessons that I try to teach in the vibration. When we go into, let's say, a grocery store, and you see somebody, just a stranger. My daughter, she always knows that this is going to happen, but I always say hi to a lot of people. And my husband's like, oh, did you know that person? And I'm like, no. And if I see somebody, and I'm not trying to pick them out, but if I see somebody that's kind of got their head down or something, I'll say something like, oh, I love your hair color. Oh, I love your shirt. Because you never know what happened to somebody moments before they came into your path. And just like I was talking about, you never know the people you're going to meet. For example, my parents were driving, and there was a woman on the side of the road and a younger son, and they were both standing there stranded, and all these cars were just flying past them on the highway. So my parents, not being ones that pick up hitchhikers, said, did you need some help? And she was so grateful, so thankful. And my dad had been trying for months and possibly years to get onto the VA support, because he was having a lot of health issues. And this woman happened to work for the VA and started the paperwork for him. But by chance, you know, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to run into. You never know what type of day somebody had prior to that. You don't know if you're helping to, you know, maybe they go home and they tell somebody gave me the best compliment today. And you just never know how you're going to impact somebody's life. And that's the mark that I want to make. I want to be that beacon of love and light, and just pour it out for everybody. I call it my superhero badge, that I grab it from source, bring it, and then make that L shape and just shine it out. Because you just never know how that's going to affect somebody. The cashier standing there having the horriblest day. Or the drive-through person freezing, standing there, you know, and they have no coat on, but that drive-through window's opening, you know, you're doing a great job today. I just want to say thank you for doing that. Maybe they hadn't heard that.
I think that's just perfect. That is so, I think that if we were just like that with each other a little bit more, like all of us, I think things would be, you know, a little bit more cheerful out there, you know?
And it doesn't have to be monetary. Words aren't monetary. They can cut just as bad as they can uplift. And I feel like going on these days, especially with social media sometimes, it's a big one. And I try to tell people when we're doing the meditations, the more they can kind of separate themselves sometimes, as I'm sitting here with my cell phone in my pocket,
yeah,
the more that we can kind of disconnect from that, you know, and just kind of live in the moment and escape a little bit. I'm not saying go too far. Sure. But just go to the park or go get an ice cream or just do something fun as a family or just by yourself.
Yeah. It always like pulls me into focus that I've gotten too attached to, you know, like my phone, for instance. Like if I leave it at the house and I'm freaking out, I'm like, oh wow, I'm way too attached to that thing. Like if I have my kids with me and my husband's with me, like really, like he has his phone. If they really need to get a hold of us, it's going to be fine. But yeah, I think that separation, that, you know, just the distractions overall, just step away, like you're saying, step away from those. So going back into like when you're working with people like in meditation.
Yes.
I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yes.
So excited. Okay, so how did you come into like deciding that you were going to do guided meditation? What's your experience with meditation? And I'm so excited because I had such a good guided meditation with you. I'm like totally like fangirling over here. No.
I know. Do I have groupies now?
Yep,
this is
you do.
awesome.
If not, you've got a group of one. I'm over here.
So how I started guided meditation is another funny story with my best friend. She invited me to co-host a silent meditation group. Our kids were in school. They're totally fine. Let's do a silent meditation group.
Okay.
So, by co-hosting, I would show up really early like I always do.
Yeah.
I would go get the whole setup stuff, the bolsters, the sitting chairs, the benches. I'd get them all, the floor mats, get them all set up all nice and pretty. Yeah. Put the donation bowl down. And that was how I co-hosted, because we sat there as a silent meditation.
Right.
Now I know all the breathing techniques. Yeah. And I know the practices. But I do not do well just sitting there with my own thoughts. Yeah. I was trying to take in, you know, the thoughts and go through the practices and be mindful and in the moment and feel the breath. And did I get the dishes put away? Would come in. And then she taught me, like, take that and put it on a Post-it and just kind of stick it off in the corner. But it was just a flood. Like, oh, did I turn off my phone? And then you start to feel that. And I was like, I'm just really not good at this. Or I would be so tired that I would just, like, kind of feel myself kind of falling further and further. Yeah. And I would almost catch myself falling asleep. Which they say is the best form of saying great job for silent meditation. Yeah. But to me, that just wasn't beneficial. Yeah. So then she took me to a restorative yoga. So it's kind of, it's more of a slow-moving yoga to more benefit and align your body, so to speak. So I already knew about chakras. I already knew about finding the balance. I already knew about finding the chi in the center and all that good stuff. Yeah. But I could hear the music in the background, and I could hear her talking in a very gentle way. And then going back to this women's group, there was something kind of similar that had happened there, and it just kind of all like clicked all together. And then I thought, I love writing. Yeah. So I thought, if I sat down and I wrote something, could I take myself to a place, guided, could I take myself to a place, be really cool there, and then be able to get back out safely and not like be asleep in this world. Right. And so I wrote it out so many times. And then I would test it on my husband. And he like have his eyes half awake, you know, and he has a hard time kind of settling in that moment. He's so much better now. Yeah. And I kind of pat myself on the back for that one. But he would know how to do like the aligning of the chakras. I would do that to him, like if he had a stressful day at work and so on and so forth. But then I started like practicing on him, you know. And I'm like, so I want you to close your eyes. And he's like, oh, great. Here we go. And then he would I could hear him snoring. And I was like, yes. So I would continue. And then he would wake up and he'd be like, wow, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And then so from that, then I practiced on my daughter. And she's a teenager. So that's an even harder one to go to.
Yeah.
And then I practiced on my best friend, and she's like, yeah, that was pretty cool. So what happened was, and this is, I guess I'm kind of gearing off, what happened is we designed these candles, my husband made these wands, we go to this expo.
Okay.
So we're at this expo, and coming in, I had seen my daughter's prior art teacher, Ashley, and I was like, oh, she's such a warm, loving person. And I just instantly gave her a hug. And she was sitting with a friend. And we were kind of rushed to, get set up. So I'm like, oh, it's, very nice to meet you, so on and so forth. So we walked in, and then we set up. And then Ashley and her friend Stephanie came over. And Stephanie said to us, I have an idea. And I really would like to share it with you. So could I contact you later? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. I would love to hear your ideas. I love new ideas.
Yeah.
And so from that, she opened up this small little shop, and she welcomed us to come with our items and sell them, vendor style, and she would take a commission, and everything flowed out great. And then she said, so what other things do you kind of do? And I said, and Matt's nudging me in the arm because he knows, my husband knows. And
husbands are like that. And mine is anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to say something, he's like, Rayne, what about that thing, that you've been working on? I'm like,
right.
Oh, yeah, I guess I could say that. No.
And so she's like, I didn't even know. I didn't even know you could do this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of can.
Yeah.
So from that's how I started out. So I have many thanks to them.
Yeah.
That they were able to provide me that path and that sense of safety to rise to that next step and say, I'm going to teach others.
Was it so intense and exciting?
That was a year ago.
Yeah.
So I'm going from guided meditation to being this shiny, happy. Silent meditation and being this shiny, happy face that people see when they walk in. Hi, welcome.
Yeah.
We just basically sit here and for 30 minutes and so on and so forth, and you work on your breath, and to now teaching an hour-long class.
Yeah.
And wanting to succeed at everything that I do.
Yeah. Not
fail.
Yeah.
And so it turned out pretty cool, and so they all grew from there, and then I made more, and people seem like, now I have groupies. I have one groupie.
Yes, at least one. I know that there are more out there. If anybody's taking your class, you have definitely more out there. So... Oh, man. Okay, but you do lots of different ones now. And where did you start? Did you start with this, spirit guide? I know there's past lives. Where was it just, a relaxation kind of, thing?
When we were inside the other shop, I did a flushing technique that I kind of started on my own. And it was my own thing that I would do on my husband when I was working on his chakras to just clear it out. And so it was this guided flow. And I was teaching these other classes. And so before we started, everyone comes in with their nervous energy. We're all new.
Yeah.
We're all in these exciting moments, but it's all new, and what are we going to talk about? And sometimes the topics that we talk about may not go along with that rut, and it may swerve out of that rut, and so they don't feel quite comfortable. So I wanted to bring it to a space almost like when you do the kids, when you're having them do their quiet time with their book to kind of settle them in for the day. And I was kind of thinking towards that, how can I have it where we can center ourselves flush out the negative junk that we're kind of carrying around, and just be in this wonderful space. And the shop at the time was pretty small, and sometimes there was a lot of us. And I wanted to get it to a space where we could just be really calm, really centered, really at peace. So I started with this flushing technique.
Is it the same one that you had used when we did the spirit guide at the beginning?
So the one that we did at the spirit guide at the beginning is like the really, really short. That I've shortened that up. I've shortened that up quite a bit. And so there was I did almost a half an hour of that before we even started.
That must feel amazing.
And that's when we say that what's the next thing I'm working on?
Yeah.
People have contacted me and that have felt those classes before, and even doing that short one that I did with you guys. And they said, we want that in an hour-long class. We love it.
Yeah.
And we want it to be something that we can use every single day if we wanted to come, once a week to this class. And so that's currently what I'm working on, is building that flushing technique into a longer class, just so that people can release that anxiety, the stress, and let it just kind of melt away.
Yeah, that would just be so mind-blowing. Because like that little piece that you gave us, I was like, oh gosh, I feel so good right now.
Yeah.
Like everything just felt like, it was like there was no tension anymore. Like I could just, it was like being, I don't even know what the right word is, like a connector. Like it was just like things just kind of went in and then out. Like it was just like a constant, but it wasn't like recycled. It was just kept from the top to the bottom. Like I don't even have the right words, but yeah, an hour long of that would be so refreshing. So I get to work.
It's kind of like we think about it. We work on like the outer body so much. We work on the outer body. We have a broken arm. We put a cast on. We go through rehabilitation.
Yeah.
When we have something trauma that's inside our body, like we were talking about, you don't get rid of that sadness. You don't get rid of that anger. It gets put somewhere.
Yeah.
When I say this when we're flushing out our knees, we walk into a lot of places sometimes that we don't want to go. And people say to themselves, oh, my knee, I'm just having really hard times with my knee.
Yeah.
You go through that step, you go through that situation, you get there, you come out, and that knee problem goes away? Yeah. So once we're able to kind of go in there, almost like a car, and we're changing out the oil. Yeah. We need to maintain the inside too. And so I realized that there was a pull for that. So going back to, I was teaching these classes. I was seeing that this flushing, thing, and people would comment afterwards, and they would say, they'd Facebook me or whatever.
I know I did. That same night, I was like, Jen, you need to talk to me about some things.
I always try to make sure people understand that I have a personal page for people to contact me because I'm a real person. Right. And I have a business page. Because people always ask me, why do you have 2 pages? Yeah. And I'm like, I want people to understand that I, too, am a human being that can be approached. Yeah. So I don't want people to feel scared to, it's kind of like your doctor. If you were to take a pill and it causes you allergic hives, allergic reaction, you would, try to call them, or now you can do your K chart and you can contact them and find that out. I wanted it to be that it wasn't something that we were done, see you later. Yeah. I wanted it to be something that somebody could come back and say, I had a couple questions.
Yeah. Which I think is so incredible of you to continue that, just because I feel like it's such it's an experience, really, when you do these meditations, and to just be like, okay, now we're done. Now I have to go, and I've got all of these questions and all of these feelings, and I'm like, yeah, what do I do now?
I just went to my past life, and
right.
I was an Egyptian, and now what do I do with this information? You know,
Right.
so it's kind of going along the lines with cards too. I feel that pull as well, and I'm kind of working back into that.
I have not done any looking into that yet. Like, obviously I know what it is, but like maybe you could give me just like a little bit of.
I wish I would have brought my cards.
That would be awesome. But
I'm
dang
like,
it.
where's my backpack?
Oh.
I went from a bag that I would carry like a briefcase, and now I just need a full-on bag. I need like a bag of tools. So what was your question again? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just give me like a little bit of info on how the cards even work, I guess.
So,
because like I said, I haven't done any. I'm aware of them, but no info. Right.
So you can go with the simple, basic, you know, the wands, the cups, you know, the cups mean the emotions, you know, the pentacles, you know, you can go through those, and that's wonderful. I personally have a deck that I always go back to, and I like it because it's not so many rules.
Okay.
And so what I see in a card, you know, like maybe you pull a card that shows, you know, two hands uniting, but maybe there's a butterfly in the picture. And that's, to me, what stands out. And I ask somebody, what does the butterfly mean to you? You know, and when I don't want to say produce tears, but when they start crying and saying, that's what I always see when my grandma's around, I know that is the message that I needed to give. So cards are just another form of what I feel is my intuition. And so when I do the cards, it just feels and flows very naturally for me. My husband, he's like really interested in runes right now. So you take the runes, you kind of shake them, and you kind of toss them, and then the runes that stay in this. I don't really use that tool. That's one of those ones that I kind of put over here. So I feel like giving yourself permission to say yes and giving yourself permission to say no, thank you is just totally okay. Yeah,
I feel like cards are almost in alignment with how I like analyze my dreams almost. Like just images and reoccurring things that keep showing up, and like, and obviously in my, you know, waking life, like, okay, I see that in my dreams, but I also see it randomly appearing here too. So is that kind of how it manifests, I guess? Or how would you even use the cards?
So the cards to me are more of... So first what I start off with is I have the person normally have a question or something that they want in mind. They have in mind. And then I work from there, or you can do, which is your 3-card spread, which is just your basic, which is your past, present, and future.
Okay.
So if you're kind of looking, there's some do's and some don'ts to cards. Like, do I... You know, like, when am I gonna die? Like, I don't pull stuff like that. I'm not a dark puller. I try to work with just the light stuff. So, but there's things and some do's and don'ts that you try to gently give the information to the person. But for me, they just kind of paint a picture, tell a story. And so... that is how I base it, is just kind of how it's telling the story, so to speak.
Okay.
I would really need those cards.
Dang. You might have to come back.
Yeah, I might need to come back and show like how Jen does her cards.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. So where were we? Okay. Meditation.
I know, we need to go back to that. I feel like we like all these other paths.
That's
okay.
Right. So you're progressing in this meditation world, and you're kind of presenting these relaxation meditations first in your practice?
Yes. So I first started off with those, and I saw how positive a response that was. And then a lot of people's questions were about dreams, were about guides, were about, I saw this person when I was younger. I have some questions about that, and my intuition or, would tell me that it was a spirit guide. So that's the first meditation that I built.
Okay. And we might veer off a little bit, but do you have people who talk to you a lot about dreams in particular?
I know I have done a lot of research about dreams. But do you have a dream in mind that...
Well, I guess. I do have
you
one that I'm
want to
kind
go
of
very
mulling
personable?
over a little bit. And the reason I ask is because I am such a vivid dreamer.
Yes.
And it is very intense, and it feels very real, and it feels like there are things that I just can't ignore. Like I'm just like, oh, why can't that dream just kind of like go away? It was just a dream, like I used to tell myself this, it's just a dream, forget about it. But then I also noticed as I stopped telling myself that, like, more, I started to pay, like I said, more themes and things that I would start to pay attention to, and things showing up while I was awake that were the same. I'm just like, okay. And it's kind of weird because I guess I feel weird saying it out loud even because I only talked to my husband about this particular part, but like it's almost like I have subtle premonitions of things, not necessarily the exact details, but more so like the aftermath of things, and how emotions and like themes are after things, and I'm like, oh, I've dreamt this, like little clues. I'm like, oh, that was there, that was there too. And so I guess I'm just okay. So I'll give you an example. So a couple nights ago, I had this dream, and it's been a while since I've had a dream that's brought up negative emotions.
Right.
I've had a nice little trend of positive emotions, which is great. But I had this dream where I was like captive in a hospital that was ever changing, and like no matter how hard I tried to escape this hospital, I couldn't get out of it. And my captives were very like, they weren't like in your face, like the evil, like the bad guy. They were very like manipulative and subtle and like all these different things. So they appeared good, but behind the scenes I knew that these people were that is not, and this is not good. Like, so I'm trying to escape this hospital, and I finally escape. I'm on like this weird like four-wheeler thing. I don't even know, but I was like smashed in the side of the head. I black out and I wake up back in this hospital, only I wake up and my captors are like throwing me this feast to like say, oh, you're back, hello, and like all of these like pleasant things. And I was just like, I gotta get out of here, And so like I've had this dream like just stuck in my brain, and I'm like, okay, well, what did I see? What kind of like symbolic, like I'm doing a lot of research, I do that a lot, but like, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to pick at like, what did I see? What does this mean? And so the only thing that I've really come back on is like the emotions that I felt. Obviously I was trapped. Being trapped leads to anxiety and fear and all these different things. So I don't know what to do with that.
So one thing that we say is, if you're the driver, so you're the driver of your four-wheeler. Yeah. So what does the four-wheeler have? It has no doors. No. Has no roof. No. And you're pretty vulnerable. Yeah. So you're feeling, in my experience, what I would say is that you're trying to get, you're trying to leave. What does a hospital represent to you? To me? Correct. When I think about it, like, because my daughter has a lot of, like, digestive issues, so anytime I'm in a hospital these days, it's not good. So you're feeling like you're in a vulnerable space, trying to escape from this, but obviously you're not in like a cool van, you're not secure in this. And then you feel like you're getting whipped back to this spot, right? Yeah. So a hospital kind of makes you feel kind of that icky place. Yeah. And these people, so the doctors, are supposed to be taking care of the situation, but you don't really feel like they are. So you're kind of answering your own. It's so there's psychological stuff that plays into it, of course. Right. And then there's imagery that plays into it, of course. Right. And then there's how much of this was your past life that you brought back.
That's a whole nother level.
So how many things have you brought back? Is this a deja vu scenario?
Yeah.
Is this something that kind of the two threads have kind of blended together and sent you? Are you astral projecting?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a whole realm. So that's why when I do, like if I were to do a one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
it normally takes like an hour to sit and kind of dive into that.
Yeah.
To feel and kind of be in a safe, calm space. Maybe not with cameras on you and big shiny lights.
Oh, yeah, that would be beautiful.
But just, you know, for you to just kind of be in that calm space, just to kind of feel it, just to kind of be, and just that acceptance to speak your truth.
Right.
And to get that out. And I've had a whole gamma of people come up to me and say, I've got something really, really weird to tell you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to scare you. And I'm like, trust me, I've heard a lot.
Yeah. Go ahead, try me.
Yeah. So, you know, sitting down and like focusing on that and looking at that, it's basically taking those little tiny elements and just kind of working with that with an intuition. How does it feel? Kind of like going what I was saying with the cards. Like, what does this represent to you? So you automatically picked up on your daughter. You automatically picked up on that you're back there with this grandiose feast. So maybe you're feeling like a new doctor has said to you, oh, well, this treatment it's gonna work, you know, and you're feeling like, you know, that these people are safe. I'm not going to say that doctors aren't bad.
Sure.
But you're just not getting the results that you're wanting, especially when it comes to a child. You want something instantaneous.
Yeah.
You want it to work quick.
Right.
And so I feel like that's what, if I were to pull my intuition, that's what I would say.
I feel really like, I think that's the direction, because I could not figure it out. I'm like, what freaking direction in my life should I be examining right now to pull so many like mixed like negative emotions, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's really, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's awesome. Going back to meditation.
Yeah, sure. Let's go back to that. Yep.
So now, tell me, when did you start implementing different types of like guided meditation into your practice?
So one of the ones that I did, so the Meet Your Spirit guide.
Yes.
Like I've talked about, I have a lot of pull for kids, and I see a lot of kids sometimes that struggle with the boogeyman that's in the dark, or that they're scared of those things. And sometimes sometimes they're your spirit guide, and maybe they just didn't put on the most happiest face, and maybe you made them look some way different. Maybe that's somebody that's passed on, that's kind of connected to the space or the house. Children, they normally don't have that filter yet to tell them, you know, we can turn that stuff off. And so you see what you see is the scary. Some kids are able to handle that a whole lot better than others. So Meet Your Spirit Guide was one of the first ones that I did. I wanted to have people be able to meet their spirit guides and to ask a question from them. And then from that, we went on. Then I went on to past lives.
I'm so nervous about that concept. I'm like, man, I can barely handle this life, let alone figure out what past lives I have.
So, the reason why I did the past life one is it's going to sound kind of graphic, but then it's going to make perfect sense.
Okay.
So I've always been the type that when I vacuum, I always would just kind of like turn my shoulder and turn my head. Like it terrified me to have the loud noise in front of me and I not be able to hear behind. So I was terrified of that. Or my laundry room is upstairs. And so I'd be washing and I couldn't see behind me. So I didn't like that feeling. So, and then taking a shower, my glasses are off. I'm blind without my glasses.
Yeah.
That vulnerable space that you're standing in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the shower curtain isn't going to do much.
Mm-mm.
So all the doors are locked, you know, but my husband or my daughter had to be sitting outside of that, bedroom.
Yeah.
So that I knew that somebody was there. I just had this overwhelming feeling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know why.
Okay.
Is this a rational thing? Is this because my parents let me watch scary movies when I was little and I don't like scary movies?
Yeah.
Or is this something else? So I did my own past life meditation on myself, built it. I put it to music because I always try to make sure that you can get in there, you can touch, feel, smell, everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted as many senses as I could put in.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought in the sound, the audio, I put it to a track, and it's weird to hear your own voice telling your own self to do something.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to myself, and I'm going back, and I realized that in my past life, I was in the Old West,
Mm-hmm.
and that my throat was cut from behind. This was something that I had from prior.
Yeah.
Once I realized that, not such a fun past life. But once I realized that, I was able to, I guess, compartmentalize that this wasn't something that was mine.
Yeah.
I can let it, put it on the shelf. You know,
Yeah.
Thank you for showing me that. I'm very grateful for you showing me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can know now that I'm going to be okay. Because going back,
the West anymore. Yeah.
yeah, going back to I'm right here, I'm right now, I'm right in this moment.
Yeah.
You know, I'm safe, you know, I'm secure, I'm loved, I'm happy, which I put inside all my meditations. That, you know, that we're okay right now.
Yeah.
You can do the laundry and no one's going to come up behind you.
Be okay.
That's like a really small percentage that this is going to happen, you know, so to speak. So once I was able to feel that, I knew that maybe other people would want to do that same experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how past life was built.
Do you find that a lot of people have kind of like traumatic experiences, or is it kind of mixed?
It's very mixed.
Is it?
Yes.
'Cause, man almighty, am I terrified of that type of meditation.
Well, in every single meditation that I do, I always try to let you have the ability to go in,
Mm-hmm.
but I make sure that you bring your spirit animal with you. I felt like bringing a guide in with you, maybe not an angel, maybe not a person, but the animal. And I make this worksheet. I call it homework, and I said, and you don't have to do your homework if you don't want to, but it's just, you know, what happened here, and I always ask people, did your animal change? And the reason why I ask this is when you go into that, does your animal grow? Does it get bigger? Does it go from a bear cub to a full-on brown bear?
Yeah.
And that's to let me know and to let you know that you have a safety net. So you're going in there fully protected. You go in a translucent state, so I help you figure that and put that on. And so if that spirit animal goes with you and it grows, that's an indication to me that maybe this wasn't such a great experience.
Yeah.
But when you go into your house and you see your hope chest, which, by the way, I have to say thank you, because one of my clients, I tell everybody before I do it, I have been doing this for a while, but I'm still learning all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not one to be, say, no, don't tell me how to do that. I love feedback. Positive, negative, you know, everything's wonderful so that I know and that I can grow.
Yeah.
So one of my clients, who now is my friend, because somehow that always happens, she told me, she said, I would really, I put a hope chest in there. And I said, you know what? When you walk into your house, it needed a hope chest. And so now forever, she's got her hope chest, and it's sitting inside that meditation for people to look in and see where they put all their items that they loved. So just because you walk in there and it's, I don't want to say scary, because just because you walk in there and it doesn't feel so comfortable, we don't stay there for that long. You gain the information that you need, and then you get to move on. And I never try to make somebody be in an uncomfortable place for too long.
Sometimes we need to be a little
but we have to grow.
That's definitely true.
Because without me going and seeing that, I wouldn't know now to say, okay, I'm okay, I can do this, that's not going to happen. And now I can shower comfortably.
That makes me a little less afraid.
So, yeah, I try to make sure that every single meditation that every single person does is, you can be an expert, you can be a beginner. And I also let people know, please don't force the image. If you walk in and you're brand new to meditation, or if you're an expert in guided meditation, and you walk in and all you got that day was just this sense of calm, this sense of being, that is what your body needed, and maybe that's all it can handle for that moment.
That is so crazy that you say that, because I kid you not, the morning of our guided meditation, like, that's exactly what I was, like, feeling. I was like, just be open and let whatever's gonna happen, because, like, during that time I was on that 30 days of meditation, and so, like, I obviously was, in that direction, and I was kind of, like, going through the motions, really, and kind of understanding it all. And so, like, that morning I woke up and I was like, just be open. And just let it happen, And so it's so weird that you say it like that, because it's almost how I heard it, like, in my head, like, just don't force, just be, And if you just have an hour of relaxation, that's okay too, know? Like, so, I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of like when you're able to see the pictures. And you're able to be there, and you're able to smell everything, and you're able to touch everything. It's awesome, and I'm not going to lie, it's an awesome thing. But even myself, doing guided meditations on myself, with myself, sometimes that's all I get, because, and some people, I actually have a client who's now a friend, she comes to a lot of my classes. And she came to a past life meditation, and she just gets a little tiny bit further every single time, and then it goes black. And she's like, why does it go black? And I tell her, you may not be ready to see that information yet. And I know that it's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
I know it's frustrating.
Wanted to do that. The next day, I was like, oh yeah, let's go back there. And I was like, oh, dang it. Not today.
You needed my voice.
I needed my... Jen, come back to me.
But, so I understand. And it's happened to me, and I've been doing this for quite a while with my own self. So, but it's just sometimes that's all your body wants, and that's all your body can handle at that moment. So
you just need to turn off that driver a little bit. I did anyway. Like, no
you
rain.
Did good.
No rain.
You
just
did good.
Refresh. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You did good. When you walked in and you were saying, "Okay, everybody," I didn't know yet what was going on. But I just kind of stood in the back and I kind of just smiled a little bit.
That's the weirdest thing about doing these vlogs is, like, because I want to document everything, because that's the whole process. Is you have to, I make notes and I write it all out first. Like, you should see my notebook. Like, when I'm doing these vlogs, it's ridiculous. But like, I write everything out so that way I don't forget any details, because I feel like the more detail I can give to these, like, process, like, as I go through them, the more I'll take away from it. And I feel like it's just one more step, like, you take it in, you write it, you talk about it, you document it, and it's just going to stick. That's what I've noticed. It just sticks, And so when I walk into these situations and it's in alignment with what I'm actually working on right then, like, I've got this camera around and people are like, why does she have a camera? Like, it gets kind of awkward. I'm like, no, it's just, I won't put anything in it that you don't want me to. Like, I promise. It's not, like, I'm not trying to, like, encroach on you. Like, I'm just trying to document it,
No, it's totally good. I just personally didn't know what was going on. I just thought maybe you were, like, going to send it to a friend, or, like, you were like, this is what I'm doing today. And you were being that excited kid jumping around.
Yeah.
Like my nephew, I guess my mom, when she over Christmas, the holiday break, she gave him some little tiny dinosaurs, and I love my nephew to death, you know, but she gave him these dinosaurs, and she said his hands were trembling to pick up these dinosaurs, and he's going, T-Rex, T-Rex.
Oh.
And so it's that feeling, you know, that it's that wonderful feeling that you get. And when I've only had one person tell me that they were not able to do any of it other than relax.
Yeah.
That's all they saw. Mm-hmm. And we also have to remember, just like there's some people that love to wake up really early in the morning, and there's some people that don't. There's some people that are night workers. So they go home, they go to bed, and I tell these people, please remember to put your notebook by your bed, so that if you have the dream, if you wake up, just jot it down. Yeah. Because you never know, taking that meditation, you never know if it's going to follow you into that dream state. So.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Dreams are just, you know, they kind of help work through. And it's funny that you said that you're very visual. I can tell you everything that's happened, the colors, everything. And I went to go do a sleep study. And they said, you don't have sleep apnea. Your brain activity is through the roof when you sleep. Your legs, everything. You're full on, like, living another life.
Yeah. I almost went and did one of those because I was having such crazy dreams. I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with me. Like, because I would talk to other people, and they're like, well, yeah, I've got dreams, but I don't remember half of them when I wake up. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you... Anyway.
Yeah, and some people have black and white dreams.
Oh.
And I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I would want to dream in color.
Right? Like, actually, now that you say that, I read a study somewhere that people who grew up in the time where it was just black and white TV had a higher tendency of only dreaming in black and white.
I'm sure.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
How many times can I say?
Sure.
Well, anyway.
Okay. Oh, yeah, great.
Back on track.
Yeah.
So you have these spirit guide meditations, and then past life meditations, and then you're working on the flushing
technique. Yes.
Okay, and how's that going? When can we do this flushing class?
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's done. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
It's mainly in my head.
Okay. So you have to wait a little bit.
And so it's really interesting because it's like everyone teased me, why are you so nervous about going to do this?
Yeah.
And I said, because when I do the meditation, you guys all have your eyes closed.
That's true. We are very vulnerable, Lane.
I could be like this, sipping on my cup, you know, like, and then I'm like, okay, you know. Yeah. And so when, you know, and I'm just I'm playing with the tunes, making sure that they all sound good, you know. I tell everybody to turn off their phone, but then I have mine, and I always apologize for that. But I'm like, unfortunately, I have my soundtracks on my phone. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is it's like we walk into situations that we just absolutely take in, and we take in that moment, and we take in that minute, and we take in that second, and it's like a waking dream almost. Yeah. It's like a walking, waking dream. So I think it's just, you know, sitting there while you guys are meditating helps me to also meditate myself into a calm, relaxing state. So I feel like working to do that flushing meditation is kind of what I do in my head anyway as I'm talking through it. I basically have all my, I guess, my scripts or how I teach you guys to go in my own mind. I don't really need my papers. I still use them just in case something were, you know, like I start doing my Post-it notes again, and did I put away the dishes, you know? Really? So I still have them, but that flushing technique I think is just something that a lot of people need. And I feel like being able to get a full body massage for an hour is an amazing experience. But to get the same type of feeling in your actual body and to maybe heal some of those past traumas, that anxiety, that stress.
Yeah.
And other people's books. Other people, whether we like it or not, when they tell us their problems and you're empathic, sometimes you don't, what I call, hand the book back. Take the book and you kind of either put it on the shoulder, put it in the heart, we put it in the back, put the tension in our head. You know, we don't really realize that. Or when we're in a situation where we go to somebody and we're talking to them and we're in this great, positive, happy mood, and then all of a sudden we leave and we need to take a nap. And it's that hooking up that they do, and it feels like they just drain us out.
Yeah.
So I want to feel like I can help somebody to refill that, flush that stuff off, shake off those books, and then just fill that love and that light back in. Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research on human design and how all that works. And basically it's supposed to tell you, like, what your design is and how you function best and all of these different things. And so basically, from here up is undefined for me, according to human design, and it talks a lot about how, like, you're really susceptible to taking in other people's energy and how they're feeling, and like you're talking about, when you walk away from them, it's just like, ooh, like, just totally drained. Like, it's all just gone because you were so hooked in for so long with them. And so it's just really interesting how all of these different practices are so intertwined.
Right.
And how a lot of the concepts are so similar. Like, it blows my mind sometimes. It's like, that sounds exactly like what this is saying over here. And that feels really true to me. Like, it's crazy. Like I said, those floodgates just open. You're like, oh, information everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's awesome, too, because I try to come at it from a very practical stance, the scientific stance, for the very logical type thinkers.
That's my husband, and boy, has this process been just delightful for him.
Yeah, my husband lives very logically, but he also is moving towards this.
Yeah.
And I noticed even lately, when I myself, you know, even though I try to stay in this love and light, I too sometimes can feel a little bit dim. And, you know, it's an unfortunate thing that the ones that we love the most sometimes are the ones that hear it the most, because we feel we're okay. We feel like that line of communication is open enough to do that. Yeah. And sometimes we overstep that, even with our loved ones. Yeah. And with our friends and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to help him to know that he is like my number one cheerleader, and I'm going to be his number one cheerleader. But sometimes he really wants it, and I'm like, I'm not really in the greatest mood to do that. And
my pom-poms are put away for the night.
Gets kind of bummed, you know, and I feel bad, but it's just, you know, we need to be able to raise each other up and have that support system set into place. And so, you know, finding that is just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like with this whole, like, understanding how you influence others and how others influence you, like, when you're interacting with them, and really defining, okay, so this is typically how my interactions work with this person, and these are the things that I need to be aware of. Yeah. And this is, I need to be mindful of how, like, even how much time I spend with this person, or, you know, how they fit and how we can benefit each other, instead of, like, trying to force things in a way and try to, like, you know, shove, you know, our lives and make them intertwined with each other, when we could just, like, let it be what it is. And like I said, I don't know. I'm notorious. I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah. I'm notorious for, if somebody
I feel like somebody's upset with me, I do what is called bake them cookies, and I like say that I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here's my cookies. Here's my cookies. You know, please like me. Please like me.
Yeah.
And so that's that, trying to find that acceptance for yourself.
Yeah.
That is, it's okay if they don't text me back right away.
Yeah.
You know, because there is that, I don't want to say insecurity, but it's still that vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Because you put yourself out there, and then you have done that, and you know, it goes back to childhood and stuff like that. That's like very rooted inside that base, you know, that base chakra. But going back to that vulnerability, and so I could probably talk hours on childhood and vulnerability. So, but going back to that, it's that what I call baking cookies syndrome, where we apologize for things that, you know, maybe they don't, you know, have the time, or maybe they don't really want to talk to you at that moment, and to be okay with that.
Yeah. That's hard.
It's a tough one.
So hard.
It's so tough.
Another hard one for me, I'm very much like that, but another one for me is if I feel like I am not helping somebody enough. Like if I see somebody that's struggling and I love them and I just love them so hard and I just want to do everything and help you so much, you know, and then you just feel so like, ugh, you know, afterwards, because it's just learning that boundary, like we were talking about earlier, just boundaries and balance and, you know, working on those things. Like what are some tools that you use to help like balance?
Oh, I'm still working. Oh, I'm still doing. Oh, I'm still on there.
Because I was gonna say I'm just really infant stage here.
So finding that balance is, a lot of things have to do with almost distraction too.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're in the scenario where you feel like you are in that baking cookies, maybe you could just stop and take a breath and say, who was the last person that I talked to that really showed me love and support? And then I say to myself, who could I share that back with? So I try to make sure that instead of sending the text messages all the time, or sending the messages or sending the calls or whatnot, I try to make sure that I say, how is your day going? I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I just want to know how you are doing as a person.
Yeah.
And when we go into, you know, that crisis mode where we need help, it's almost like we forget about the ones that kind of we put on those back burners.
Yeah.
And so when we get to that point where you send out this love to all these different people, you know, maybe one of them reaches out and says, you know what, I've been having a really tough time with something. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I just read that. Or, oh my gosh, I just drove past that building. I put that inside my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why I need this, but I'm going to need it. You know? And then there it is.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to work out of those situations. Sometimes when you just want to, it's almost like tunnel vision. Like you're just like, I need to help you, but no, I need to, you know, I don't want to say prioritize, because that's not what, you know, I mean. It's just like you're saying, like just waiting for them to kind of like come to you almost. Is that what you're saying in that aspect?
Right.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like making sure that instead of that focus being on that one person on that one particular day, you know, doing your check-in, but then kind of surveying with the rest of them, because maybe one of the rest of them was feeling like, you know, they feel a heavy heart. Yeah.
I think that honestly, doing more meditation has helped me in that aspect, because and it's the same with a lot of other things. Yeah, it's the same with a lot of other things that I've been researching. It's about, you know, obviously you can't give from an empty cup, essentially. And I've noticed that meditation just like it just fills it back up again, and I'm like, okay, I can face the world, and I can do the things that because sometimes there were days where I just didn't even feel like I could do the things that I had to do. Obviously I did them, but like it was like lifting my mental space up off the floor and like dragging it, and it just felt like 1,000,000 pounds some days. I'm like, we need to check in and we need to do this. It was like a fight. But I noticed the more meditation I did, it, like I said, it filled that cup back up, and like my mind space felt lighter. Like, that's the best way I could describe it.
And the other thing is I feel when you walk into a situation and you yourself are feeling down,
yeah,
you know, you're giving your all to somebody, and what is that leaving for yourself? So that's why I try to give everybody that L shape. I always try to say to find that light and send it out of your superhero badge.
Yeah.
Instead of letting it hook up to others.
Yeah.
And sometimes when your tank is so full, you're like, oh, it's okay. You can just take it.
Yeah.
And then you're left with a cold. You're left feeling sick. I still sometimes do this.
Yeah.
And I myself am sometimes guilty of it. And I know better. But it's just that giving nature that sometimes does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you leave yourself vulnerable.
Definitely. For sure. So, as you've kind of worked through this like meditation process, and you like shared it with the world,
right,
and like this is what I'm doing now, and like helping people fill up their cups and, you know, pull from source instead, and they're I love that you say superhero badge.
Yeah, superhero badge.
I'm just like, oh.
Well, I always try to, and then like when I do my selenite wanding class, you know, and I'm trying to teach people about how to do the basics, about how to shield themselves from like when we go into the major stores. I don't know if I'm allowed to say them for, you know, copyright privileges, but
I don't know. We'll check with this. No. He's like, I don't know.
If you go into the major stores, and you know the ones that I'm talking about, where you hear the screaming children, where you hear the people. My husband, he's like standing there like, you know, white knuckled, I have to go. He's like, how are you doing this? Yeah. And it's just like, oh, well, I'm all bubbled up. You know? What? Yeah. So I teach a class on that one too. And the one that I always tell people is like, do you remember this story when you know, the movie Beetlejuice, where she takes the chalk out and she draws this, or the guy, he draws it and then they open up the door. Yeah. I always work with imagery just like that. Yeah. So you know,
superhero badge totally works for that.
Superhero badge.
I love it.
It just was an image that popped into my head, and I was like, people can understand this.
Yeah, but it's also like empowering. It's not just like, you know, like you said, it really paints the picture for you. You're like, okay, I can do that. Like, I can put on that superhero badge and I can send it out that way.
I used to say Care Bears, like when they used to do their tummy symbol.
Yeah.
But I don't want it way down here. I want it, and I don't want it, you know, I want it to be out like that, because like you don't want to like send your tummy symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess heart is a little, you know.
It's up here is a little bit better.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you oh my gosh, I just love anyway, pull my thoughts back together, because I'm still lost in meditation.
No, we can still talk about meditation. I don't care.
So, like, how did the candles and all of this, how did all of this come out of the process? So you started with this.
So this one is where we started. Okay. So from the mind, body, spirit type realm is how we went. Okay. So me and my husband, we were sitting in bed, and we have different stories about this. So like when I wrote it out in my notes, he's like, what about? No, I don't. He like sat back, you know, and did his thing where, you know, he doesn't want to hurt my feelings, because he knows that I worked like countless hours on this, and I love my husband dearly, and he's trying to say in the most loving way, that's not what happened. Yeah. So he's trying to pull it in this really loving way, and he goes, that's actually kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, let's hear your version.
Yeah.
So we differ on who came up with the idea. But as it was, as we were laying in bed and we had gone to one of the cookie cutter stores,
Mm-hmm.
and we were smelling the candles. Really bad headache. My daughter, she's smelling them. She's like, ew, I don't like that. Ew, I don't like that. My best friend that I talk about all the time is telling me about all the nasty chemicals that are inside of them, and we're burning them, and we're having our babies smell this, and I banned all the candles in my house, and so I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what could we do? So we're sitting there, and my other friend, who's actually my best friend's, my daughter's best friend, we, the moms became friends, of course, how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
She had this really cool candle, and it was the cookie cutter type, but as she burned it down, there was like this cool, like, piece of jewelry she got.
Oh.
And so I was talking to my husband, and I said, I really would like there to be a candle that it's like naturally based with essential oils, like for aromatherapy, because I was getting into aromatherapy. I don't know what happened. Just one day I went to the library, saw a book, and did all this research because my daughter was having headaches, and I didn't want her to be popping all these pills.
That's why we turned to more oils and such. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, cool, peppermint oil, some lavender. So I'm like, what if, okay, so this is where we differ.
It's all right. Tell both stories.
His version, he said, what if we made a candle and we kind of put this, like, cool poem on it or spell if you don't, cool poem spell. And it was all natural with a cotton wick, and, we put it in glass and everything. And then I said, this is his version, then I said, well, what if we took a stone and we wrapped it up and it went along with everything? So we call it our 6-part system. So we put the stone on the inside, stuck it on the inside of here. So as you burn down the candle, you got a stone. You could make it, like, I've been making jewelry. This isn't from the stones, but I've been doing wire wrap jewelry too. And so I said, well, what if we did that and then somebody could have it as, like, a pocket stone? They could make a piece of jewelry. Yeah. They could, like, put it in a little trinket box and save it.
It's like the adult version of having a toy in the cereal box.
Exactly.
Like, you're like, oh, I can't wait to see what's down there.
Like a mystery box. It's like so cool. So then we came up with these, we put charms with it. So if you wanted to, like, make a charm bracelet, it went along with it. And then, so they all have different things. I brought REM today, so for people that need help with sleep. So then we look at the properties of it. So it's lightly enchanted with lavender, sandalwood, bergamot, and spearmint, because spearmint's supposed to help with settling down that body for restful dreams. Not the ones where we're falling and getting our head hit and ending up inside hospitals.
No more of those.
So my husband and I came up with the logo, and this actually, the hand holding one of my husband's wands, because my husband started doing woodworking too.
Those are incredible, by the way.
She held that up, and then I just did a digital graphic, and then that is my daughter's hand holding that wand. So she's on every one. So if you want to take a smell,
yes, I do.
So it's just kind of clean, crisp, like just like it just makes you.
That smells like bedtime too.
Yeah, it smells like bedtime. And so we always, of course, put our morning label on the bottom. Like, don't fall asleep with your candles lit. But people sometimes get upset because it's so natural that it's such a clean burn. It takes forever to get to that stone because it's not that plasticky stuff that just burns and just melts and then your candle's done. So it takes a while, and the smell is like, so we ask people not to be digging in there and try to get it out early. So we kind of put this down inside. So we have the meditation. So you a lot of people are attracted to water, fire, all the elements. And so fire is actually a natural one for when it's burning. If you stare into the flame and you watch it dance, that's its own meditation. So we put, my husband and I both have put these little tiny poems or spells, whatever you would like to prefer to call it. We put them inside of there, so as you're looking at it, you can invoke that candle. So for blissful sleep, we put blue lace agate because that kind of promotes that type of property. And then, so you got the charm. Some of the stones are at the bottom. Some of them are underneath here. I did it here because people were complaining when they're all the way at the bottom. And it was taking forever. And then it goes along with the aromatherapy. And then we have everything that goes along. And the stones generally run between a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. I try to make sure that it's something that isn't something dinky and small.
Yeah.
Our travel candle is half the size. We do it so that you can take it on planes. So it's travelability. It smells so amazing. It's my favorite one, but it we all like try to figure out what they all smell like. And my daughter, I love my daughter dearly, and my husband, but my husband and my daughter both said it smells like scratch and sniff root beer stickers. And from like the 80s, like from when you were a kid, and I'm like, yes, that is why I love it.
Yeah.
And that one has an aquamarine in it.
Oh.
So they all just, that one just,
Nice.
it's got a cool compass one and stuff.
I love how you've put so much thought into every detail of this project with these candles. Because, like, it's so funny because, so I have to tell you about this basket here.
Okay.
So I knew starting this podcast that I wanted something on the table.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, unraveling, like, what do we want? Do we want, like, yarn? Well, like, what is this even going to look like, right? And so I felt like, you know, having 3 kids, you always try to, or I'd always try to, like, find projects that are in alignment with their age and, you know, such, so that way we can spend like more one-on-one time together. And I thought, oh, this will be the perfect time to snag my oldest, and we're going to go to Hobby Lobby and we're going to find all the pieces to this centerpiece, right? And so, like, what I had envisioned was, you know, a little different than what we came out with. However, like, every single little piece of this, my daughter thought through entirely. We spent like 2 hours in Hobby Lobby, going up and down every single aisle at least twice, looking for all of the pieces to this. And so, like, when you're talking about, you know, the imagery on the top of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes! Like, that is so cool to see how you've just brought all of the little aspects into something as, you know, not want to say as simple, but like just the label. Yeah, and so we call it candle magic because we wanted it to be something that is kind of a mystery. It's kind of cool. It's a candle. It's magic. It's neat. You know, and so we're really proud of it. Yeah, I would be too. Like, this is such a cool idea.
He was, my husband, he loves working with wood. And so I asked him, what would you want to do? What would bring you joy? Because my husband is ever looking for a hobby.
Yeah.
He tries something else out, and then he's like a human pawn shop, and then he sells it. And then he tries something else out, and then he sells it. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going to bring you joy? And he loves it. Love working with the hands. I love working with nature. I love working with wood. So he likes to do a lot of research too. So of course, you know, my husband puts
I think our husbands should hang out because they sound so similar. Anyway, go ahead. So
he sits there and he finds these exotic woods, and the guy down at the plywood store that talks to us all the time, he's the sweetest guy, and he like will sit there and special order my husband these blanks that are only this long, and he'll order like he's the sweetest guy. But anyway, so he goes along and he's been carving these out, and he works with the way that the wood talks. Okay. So this is purple wood, and this actually just has teak oil on it. This is exactly how it looks. It has this like sparkle shimmer to it, and he lets the wood basically talk to him and tell him how it's going to work. So we have those, he does those, and I love going in there and smelling like his garage and his little workshop, and he's over there and he's got his music blaring, his Ed Sheeran blaring, and he's going along, and you know, you can see just, it's just so magical.
Yeah, it's so cool when you can find those things that, you, like you say, he just kind of lets it happen how it's going to happen, because that's how it works with me with painting a lot of time. Like, I'll just sit down with a blank canvas and I'm just like, well, looks like we're gravitating towards blue today, so let's just throw some blue up there and see what happens, you know? So it's really reassuring to hear that other people have the same process.
Yes.
They just kind of like go with it.
He's stuck with this one for quite a long time, so I'm hoping that this one sticks.
Yeah.
But he's already talking about buying a new lathe, which, you know, now that means that, you know, we have to spend more money on something else. But I'm okay for that.
Yeah.
If it brings him joy, and I ask him, does it bring you joy? And he says yes. I don't mind putting the money towards something like that.
Definitely.
If it's going to... He's not out doing anything, you know, that's going to harm anybody. He's bringing somebody else joy. Yeah. He just sold his lignum vitae, which is what Merlin, they say that Merlin, the magician, you know, he used was his staff and his wand. And so he just sold that. And the guy that purchased it just went on and on and on. And it was just the most wonderful experience to hear how this guy was saying, what kind of oils do you use on it? You know, did you use the stain? Did you do this? It turned out so beautiful. How did you not get cracks? And my husband's like, wow, I kind of feel like I got a fan here. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
It's just, we just try to do little tiny things to bring people joy in everyday life right now.
That is just so amazing. It's so amazing. I wish that more people could just allow that in their life, you know? Yeah.
It's a process, you know. There's a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of things going on with people, you know, jobs and stuff like that. And I feel like gearing towards just putting something else, like I talked about, in your toolbox, even if it may go against the grain, you know, meditation has been around. It's very ancient. There's a lot of things that a lot of religions kind of mix in, and I try to gather stuff from all religions. I try to welcome anybody, you know, I try to listen to anybody. You know, I've had some people tell me, well, this is what I believe, you know, and that's great, and I'm not gonna shun somebody or discredit them or say anything against them. I just want to show love and to give love and receive love. And I just want to be that beacon to just kind of shine. And my daughter has been the greatest balancing tool, going back to that.
Kids are great at that.
She's 13. It's like the toughest age. She is so wonderful at just helping with that type of scenario. She is not one that fits inside that box. And she is that weird shape, that spiral, that hexagon, whatever you want to say. And she welcomes others to be okay with that.
That is so
you know,
awesome.
She's the island of misfit toys, and she's totally fine with it. And I love that about her. And I love to just watch how she just is like, oh, so-and-so's mad at me today. Who cares? And I'm like, but why? But what are you going to do to fix it? She's like, I don't know. Probably works itself out tomorrow. And I'm just
awesome.
Like, you're 13. That's so wonderful. And I love her. And we're so in tune, though. And I sometimes talk before she's even spoken. And I think that I do that just because I know what she's gonna say, and she only speaks when, you know, she has the proper thing to say. She speaks with respect. She, you know, tries to use her words, as I just like blah, 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 blah. And so I just like talk automatically for her, and so sometimes I get in trouble for that, and I just need to rein myself back and feel that she's okay. She can do this.
It's hard as a mom. It's so hard.
She is a great learning tool.
Yeah.
She, being different has really helped her.
Yeah.
She kind of struggled early on in school, and it was a really hard time for her in elementary school.
Yeah.
But then middle school happened, and she just took off.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so crazy, because I hear it's way the other way around. Once middle school starts, it's like torture.
She just thrived. She
so
found
cool.
her teacher. I would cry for this, He is amazing.
Yeah.
He gets them.
Yeah.
He understands them. He works with them. He gets down on their level.
That's so great.
And it's like when we're talking to younger children, we ask them, we need to get down to their level and talk to them. When they get older, why are we in such a rush to make kids grow up?
I don't know. I wish we were.
There's like, it's such a rush to just like do and do all these testings and do all this stuff. And he has this way, even though he has ADD as well, he has this way of like getting down to their level again and just working them through it.
What a blessing.
He's just an amazing teacher.
That is so great.
I don't know what I'm going to do when we have to go off to high school.
Right? I feel like that's kind of strange because my daughter, she's in 3rd grade, and she has a teacher that is very much in tune with her. And I was kind of... So, my oldest, she is definitely, like I was saying, she's, like you can attest to, she's just not quite, like everybody else. Which is totally cool.
Totally fine.
And we embrace that, and we love that about her. And it's really easy to do in your home. Like, it's really easy to promote that with her in the house. But when she leaves the house and she's in that big, bad world, it's not as forgiving sometimes.
Right.
And so my husband and I, we were kind of, like, we weren't dreading her conference this year with her teacher, but we were kind of like, oh, okay, so now that she's a little bit older, she's a little bit more vocal about, who she is, which is great. We want her to be that. But then she needs to also kind of be in school and, be respectful of how the flow of school works, even though it's not really her flow.
Right.
And so we went to this conference, and he was like totally cool, and he's like, I think this is what we need to try with Kyra. Maybe that'll just balance everything out. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, like, that is so awesome. So it's crazy how these people step in and they fill those gaps when you need it the most, I feel. So... bless teachers.
I know.
They're so awesome.
It's such a wonderful experience, and it's like my daughter has this ability. She had 2 deaf friends, and she wanted to communicate with them, and so she learned sign language.
Really?
Just so she can communicate with them better.
That is so awesome.
So, I mean, she did the books, she went to the classes, she did all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just so she can communicate with them better.
Yeah.
And that's
so
like,
cool.
And I want to say that's something that I hope that I had passed on to her.
Yeah. That
human compassion, that human kindness, that, these kids might have been pushed away. I'm not there at school. She says that they're okay, but they could be those ones that are kind of pushed away.
Yeah.
And she took the time to make sure that they knew that there was somebody that was a friend.
Yeah. And I think that that's obviously in the forefront of our minds as mothers and parents is, are we giving them the tools that they need to build those connections and be that love and be that, that person that accepts the people that might not be accepted all the time. So.
Yeah. And it's kids can be cruel.
Yes, they can. And I feel like it's getting earlier and earlier, because I don't remember half of the things that my kids tell me happening when I was their age. I was like, what? They said what? And they did what? And I'm like, oh.
With our daughter, we have a very open family.
Yeah.
And we have a very open line of communication. And Caitlin, we've told her that at any moment and at any time, if she has any problem, any question, a word that, especially when she's younger, a word that you heard, I would rather you tell me or your dad than for you to say it to somebody else, so you will not get in trouble.
Yeah.
And some of the words that she's come to tell me, I've been like,
You have to keep that straight face. Like, okay.
They said, what?
Let's talk about that. But on the inside, you're going, what the heck is happening?
And we try to allow Caitlin to have a way to express herself, especially at this age. It's a really tough age to express herself.
Everything is happening at that age.
Non-permanent ways. I mean, I'm not going to allow her to go get a tattoo, but
right.
if she wanted to dye the ends of her hair, what's the harm that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, if she wants to do something else, you know, she had this bold idea that she wanted to walk home from her middle school to our house.
Oh.
And so I said, I'll tell you what, because she wanted to do this with her best friend. And I said, I'll tell you what, you do it with your dad first, and then we'll talk about it. Because we're trying not to be those helicopter parents.
It's so hard.
But she's our baby.
Yeah.
And we only got one shot at this. We only get one kid. And so I told her, I said, your dad will walk home and then we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll have you know, benchmarks where we'll be right here and then you wave to us and then we'll go on, you know, and we'll go a little bit further up the road and so on and so forth. She walked home from school. It took her, I think, an hour and 20 minutes to get home. She's like, I will never do that again. And it's like, it's those small little tiny things that maybe as a parent I, you know, could have said, no, no, absolutely not. Yeah. But it's like, what was the harm? Yeah. She walked home with her dad. Her dad was all for it. They walked home. You know, she lived, she survived, she was sore.
Yeah, I bet. That sounds like a long walk.
And she's like, okay, I guess it was a lot further than I anticipated.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just a learning experience for them. They're like, oh, I guess I didn't think about all of the moving parts to this thing that I wanted to do, you know? Yeah.
But, like, when she comes up to me and she tells me that one of her friends at school, you know, there's something serious going on. I'm so grateful for that bond of communication that we've opened up so that she's able to come to me with the really bigger stuff.
Yeah. And I think it really starts with those smaller things.
Right.
It really does. So, like, I know that obviously, like I said, as like parents, we're always thinking about our kids and how they're going to affect the world and how they're going to, like, you know, intertwine with everybody, but like taking it one step further, like for the Tri-Cities, like what do you see happening with this kind of community almost? Because I feel like I've just been kind of like dropped into this community of people that are like really in alignment, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Why isn't there more of this, you know? Like, and I feel like it's growing, but that could just be me, like, just meeting all of these people all of a sudden, and I just didn't realize we were there. Like, and I feel like you've been kind of in this, like, community of people longer than I have. And do you feel like it's growing? Is it progressing? Do you think that, like, more mindful and meditation and all these different practices are going to, like, progress in this area? Or what is your take on that?
So I'm hoping, and me and my husband actually talk about this all the time. Yeah. We feel like people are looking for that alternative. And I say, instead of reaching for the toxic masks that sometimes people reach for, that if they could deal with the anxiety or the depression or the trauma, or just become real with themselves and say, listen, something is upset inside of my system. You know, if there's an alternative, a candle, if there's, you know, like, people drink tea. People sit down, and it's that whole scenario that they're not even realizing that they're doing. They grab the cup. It's their favorite cup. You know, my totems are my owl, so it has an owl on it. It's that warm feeling. It's the smell. They're taking all of those things in. That's kind of what meditation, I feel, does. So meditation just brings you to that warm cup with that, you know, that warm fuzzy blanket, that cozy safe space. Yeah. And so if we could just put that inside the toolbox instead of the other, you know, the vices that sometimes people use instead that maybe aren't so healthy. Yeah. And focus more on that. I feel like having an open-mindedness, being able to talk, being able to share without feeling like they needed to be kind of being secretive about it, I think will really help out too.
Yeah.
And also empowerment, just helping one another to know that you're in a safe place and you're okay, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing you down, instead of tearing somebody down about it, empowering them to say, you know what, that's awesome, you want to carry around that stone. You know what? It's not hurting anybody.
Yeah. And, I feel like I've personally experienced that, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say something about something that's working in my life because of how they're going to perceive it, how that person's going to perceive it. And I definitely hit that wall hard when it comes to my other daughter and, like, with her medical stuff. And obviously, we're still, listening to our doctors and absorbing the advice that they're giving us and, really exhausting all of our options. And then, like, I feel like when we start looking at other routes and we start expressing that to people, they're just like, why would you do that? Your doctors are saying this, so this is what it is. And I really wish that would kind of that stigma would kind of dissipate a little bit more. And like I said, I don't know if it's just because like I feel like I've just been flooded with all these connections lately. But I feel like it's kind of headed in that direction, and I hope it's headed in that direction.
So I would call it more like a holistical wellness type. Yeah. So it was funny because on my business card that I hand out to everybody so they can get in touch with me, I always tell everybody, I'm not trying to promote myself. It's just so you can get in touch with me.
Yeah.
But that's what I called myself, was for a holistical wellness healer.
Yeah.
Because
But you work with Reiki, and you do Reiki as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I do my own version of Reiki. Okay. I know all the practices. I know all the scenarios that go along with it. But I find my own flow. It's like, you were asking me earlier, I get these tools, and then I feel like sometimes people feel like they have to be like this. And I just take them and I just mold them into what I want. Yeah. And I feel like it flows with me, and I feel like it flows better. So if you pick up a tool and it doesn't really work, maybe try it and look at it in a different light, so to speak. Yeah. But I'm hoping that it's going that way. I mean, we're seeing more and more things open up. I feel like there's more and more yoga. Yoga's very open and welcomed now in the community. I mean, you have tons of yoga studios now, and it's so wonderful. Yeah. And I've had the great privilege of having Stephanie open up Lotus on the Moon for me to be at there. And then I also have another place that invited me to be a teacher there, and that's the Fitting Room, which was formerly known as Suzanne's Studios, also up in the Uptown. And so I'm just finding a lot of people too are opening up and saying, I love, I heard about your guided meditations, and I heard about you, and I would really like to have you come to our space as well. And that's kind of a great validation too.
Oh, I'm sure.
To know that I'm doing a good job. Because, sometimes you don't hear from people, and then sometimes you do. Yeah.
Like that day, yeah.
And so, it's a very validating experience for myself. Even being a mother, I talk about this too. You cook, you clean, you do your thing, and you don't have that boss sometimes to give you your incentive, your raise, your bonus. You walk in with your shirt with a big stain on it, or your shirt's wrinkly because you just got it out of the dryer because your kids' clothes needed to be washed first. Yep. And it's so doing that validation coming from, working at these different jobs and then doing the preschool and then being a mom, taking off that time for so long and then working again. I don't even necessarily know if I call it working yet. And my daughter teases me, you have a job, Mom, you teach classes. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. But it's just that pat on the back. It's that validation. And it's going back to what I was talking about, just asking, texting somebody, saying, how are you doing? Just giving them, you're doing an amazing job. Just want to make sure you're having an amazing day. Yeah. So, because moms need those.
They do.
Sometimes,
they so do.
Sometimes we would just want to wear sweatpants and we want to stay in bed. Yes. And it's putting on those jeans that causes pain sometimes. But it's like getting dressed, getting out there, being in the sun. I love being in the sun.
Yes.
And just being out there and being with the world is sometimes like a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, you put that so nicely. I'm just like, oh, that is just all-encompassing. That's
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming and sitting down and letting me pick your brain and talk about meditation. And we'll definitely have to have you back with your cards.
Sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because I definitely want to do that. I'm intrigued by this. I feel like there's just one more little piece that I'm going to explore next, you know? So, yeah, thank you. Oh, wait.
What?
Where can we find all of this?
So I brought
all of your info.
I brought one of my cards, and my husband is on the back as well. So I don't know if you can pull in on that to find it.
You put it up to that one.
That
See
one?
the little camera guy? Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Am I blocking something? I'm probably blocking something. So all of our information is on there.
Yeah, and I'll put that in the comments and stuff too.
Yeah, because if I were to sit here and be like, and find me on da-da-da-da-da-da.
You'd be like a Vanna White.
Yeah, I could. I could tell you, I could talk about all of it. And then if you really wanted to know, I double-sided it, and I have my husband's stuff on the back.
Nice.
So it's the same information. It's just I want to give equal credit where credit's due.
For sure.
I couldn't do it without my partner in crime. I mean, 20 years together, I cannot even... Did you get that okay? Okay, awesome. I'm just standing here holding it for like 10 years. Here you go. So, I mean, my husband is a wonderful person. He puts up with a lot of my kooky stuff, a lot of my time that I say, this is going to take 10 minutes to do, and it turns into 3 hours or 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he stands beside me and does it with me. And so, I have to give credit to him and the people that I just love in my life. Beautiful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for everyone that walks into my life that I meet. It's just, I can't stress it enough. You know, each person that walks in your life, you never know. You came into my room. You had your phone. You're going like this around in my room.
No.
You had a wonderful experience, and then here I am today.
Yes.
So it's like you never know what's going to happen.
And you know what's so crazy about that class when I came? Because it was the first time I'd like really left my son with anybody. My youngest, he's 2. Yeah. It's the first time I left him with anybody other than his grandparents on the other side. And so I was like really stressed about it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm putting myself out there. Yeah. And then, like you said, it all happens. It all happens.
And then now you know that the person that you left him with we're okay.
Yes.
Yes.
We're all good.
We're all good. We're
all was
okay.
Right in the world.
All was right. All did good.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening. If you would like to help support Unraveling with Rayne, go to patreon.com/Unraveling with Rayne. When you become a patron, you receive bonus content such as behind-the-scenes footage, along with other special content that you won't be able to find anywhere else. Music for Unraveling with Rayne was provided by Barefoot Randy. Studio space was provided by Moody Logic.